Two kids nicknamed the slowest, fattest kids in gym class ended up building a billion-dollar ice cream empire. But the road there was anything but smooth. This is the incredible story of Ben and Jerry's. Chapter 1. When Ben met Jerry. It was the early 1960s and two 12-year-old boys called Ben and Jerry were struggling in gym class. Ben was arguing with the teacher about running a mile. Jerry was struggling so much he fainted. The two became friends over their shared misery. But going into ice cream was neither of their first choices. Jerry wanted to become a doctor, but was rejected by over 40 medical schools. He ended up working as a lab technician, blending cow hearts and mashing them into test tubes. Ben tried pottery, worked as a janitor, flipped burgers at McDonald's, and scraped food leftovers. He hated working for corporations and having a boss. Both were deeply unhappy with how their lives were turning out. So in 1973, Jerry moved to New York to live with Ben, and they started brainstorming. What could they do where Ben didn't have to answer to authority and Jerry didn't have to blend organs? Chapter 2. The first scoop shop. Both loved food. Their first idea was fresh bagels, until they discovered the equipment cost $40,000, so they pivoted to something cheaper. Ice cream. Neither knew how to make it, so they enrolled in a $5 course at Penn State. They named the business Ben and Jerry's, giving the impression of homemade ice cream made by two regular guys. Using their savings and a $4,000 bank loan, they opened an ice cream parlour in an abandoned gas station in Vermont where the roof had fallen in, and the floor was covered in 4 inches of ice. They built their work tables from the cheapest lumber available and bought equipment from clearance auctions at failed restaurants. Ben made all the bowls and cups himself from pottery. Interestingly, Ben has a condition called anosmia. He has no sense of smell and a severely diminished sense of taste. He relies entirely on texture and mouthfeel. This meant he demanded larger fruit and chocolate chunks and more intense flavours. No batch passed until he could identify the flavour blindfolded. This quirk turned out to be a gift. It created uniquely rich, intense ice cream that nobody else was making. Ben and Jerry's officially opened on May 5th, 1978. Customers lined up for buy one, get one free cones. The launch was a success. Chapter 3. Sledgehammer to the gut. To build loyalty. Ben and Jerry hosted wild community events. Ben would lie down with a cinder block on his stomach, while Jerry attempted to smash it with a sledgehammer. Customers loved it. But behind the fun, they had a serious problem. They had no real business experience and were barely making any profit. One day they simply closed the store and put a sign in the window reading, "We are closed today so we can figure out if we are making any money." Chapter 4. What's the Doughboy Afraid of? By 1983. Ben and Jerry's sales had doubled, reaching over $1.8 million. That same year, Pillsbury bought Häagen-Dazs, a competing premium ice cream brand. Pillsbury immediately issued an ultimatum to distributors. Choose between Ben and Jerry's or Häagen-Dazs. Since Häagen-Dazs held 70% of the market, the choice was easy. Distributors started calling Ben and Jerry to say they could no longer sell their product. Without distributors, it could be the end of the company entirely. But Ben had an idea. Instead of taking this to a legal court, they would take it to the court of public opinion. They launched a campaign with the slogan, "What's the Doughboy Afraid of?" painting Pillsbury as an evil corporation stomping on the little guy. They took out ads in Rolling Stone, plastered posters everywhere, and set up a hotline encouraging customers to call Pillsbury directly to complain. Up through Chapter 5. Activist ice cream. With sales rising, the stress of running a fast-growing business was becoming overwhelming. Neither Ben nor Jerry had ever wanted to build a big corporation. They considered selling. But then they heard a simple idea that changed everything. If there is something you do not like about business, change it. They introduced a policy where the highest earner in the company could only make 5 times the lowest paid employee. They launched the Ben & Jerry's Foundation, donating 7.5% of annual pre-tax profits to community projects. Needing $2.5 million for a new factory, they took the company public, but only allowed Vermont residents to buy shares. Everyone said it was naive and impractical, but it worked. They raised the money and 1% of Vermont households became part owners of the business. Sales rose from $4 million in 1984 to $10 million in 1985 and $32 million by 1988. That same year, Ronald Reagan named them US Small Business Persons of the Year, but they could not keep up with demand. Factory workers ran 12-hour shifts and operational costs spiraled. Ben & Jerry hired a professional CEO and stepped back from day-to-day management. For a while it seemed perfect. Then sales began to fall. Stock dropped nearly 50% from its peak. Bigger companies started circling. Chapter 6. Sell out. In 2000, the board agreed to sell the company to Unilever for $326 million. The sale sparked a public backlash, with Ben & Jerry accused of selling out to the corporate machine they had always claimed to hate. But they had little choice. Ben & Jerry's was a public company, and the board felt they could not refuse the offer. Shortly after the sale, Ben underwent emergency quintuple bypass surgery, partly due to stress, but mostly due to years of consuming entire tubs of ice cream while testing new flavours. However, Ben & Jerry's team negotiated strict terms. An independent board was established to uphold the company's original values, and despite being owned by one of the world's largest corporations, Ben & Jerry's has continued releasing flavours supporting fair trade, climate action, and social causes, including a flavour called Hubby Hubby, released in support of gay marriage. An ice cream company taking genuine public stances on political and social issues is unusual. But unlike many companies using causes as calculated marketing, Ben & Jerry's founders have always spoken up on issues they actually believe in. From 2 kids fainting in gym class to a billion-dollar brand that tried to change the world one scoop at a time. There has never been a business story quite like Ben & Jerry's.